Wait, are you are you gonna count me in? Whatever. I'm just gonna go for it. Welcome to the Queen's Lead podcast. I'm your host, Amy Singleton, and as a child of the 80s, I'd love to say queens rule, but they don't. Queens lead. Being a queen means you are worthy to be a leader of people. The guests on our show do exactly that. They are leading the way in their businesses, families, and communities. And they're taking their rightful place in the spotlight, leading and inspiring the developing queens in all of us. Welcome to the Queen's Lead podcast.
Now here's your host, Amy Singleton, the queen of realness, leading conversations about business, life, and the real shit you want to know.
Welcome everybody back to another episode of the Queen's Lead podcast. Today, I'm giving you a repeat because this former guest, Nicole Heese, has done so many things since we last spoke. And so she wanted to come back on and give us an update. I'm super excited to hear from her. If you remember her first episode from last year, it was about her going from mouthy bartender to mouthy millionaire in only 13 months. And she is obsessed with helping her clients now in her business do the same, become millionaires and have their clients become millionaires as well and build those seven-figure business. But she's been up to something quite different, something I just learned she actually started before all of this other unicorn wonder world marketing things started. So welcome back, Nicole. We're excited to have you.
Amy, it's so great to be back, and thank you for having me. I'm so excited to share with your audience what we got going on behind the scenes, because I know it's a little bit outside the box for what normal entrepreneurs do.
Yeah, for sure. So you've written a book. Let's just let the cat right out of the bag. You've written a book. The title is Shadow Called Sunshine. And she just told me a little nugget before we hopped on that she actually started writing this book before she became the mouthy millionaire. So tell us about how it all started, Nicole.
So this book is actually, it's fiction. It's a fiction piece. So it's not a biz book, which is what you typically see from entrepreneurs.
Yeah, so rare. We're writing the sales book and the marketing book and the please let me speak on your stage and sell you something book, right? That's what we normally do. But this is totally different. This is fiction.
It is. It's fiction, but it's actually very much rooted in my personal story from a domestic violence experience that I had when I was a little bit younger. And, quite honestly, I chose quite a few abusive relationships before I really started doing the mindset work and before I started, really finding my own sense of self-worth and self-sovereignty. And so this really explores the deeper chapters of self-sabotage patterns, which quite honestly are constantly standing in the way of entrepreneurs. I know that all my clients are constantly coming to me really working through some of these deeper narratives that happen, earlier in their lives before they became leaders, before they became entrepreneurs. And that's, one of the biggest things that holds them back in being able to scale is these kind of sneaky self-sabotage patterns that come in. And so I started writing this book after I got out of this domestic violence relationship, and almost as a way to process, as a way to cope, as a way to take what I experienced and put it into character form, because it kind of gave me that third party perspective, right? Rather than
yes, where you're watching your life, what would a reasonable group of 12 people, you're on a jury of your life, right? What would a reasonable person do? That's transformative type work right there.
I mean, it was really helpful. It was really helpful for me to pull myself out of it, observe the behaviors, work through some of those scenes, and really allow myself to understand, why did I make this choice, right? Why did I do this again and again? Why did I sign up for this? What was the underlying thing? And so
first of all, you said it's a choice. You made a choice. Most people are don't think they made a choice. They think, oh, I just attract all these bad men. I just attract all these bad circumstances. You said you made a choice. There had to have been some realization before that, though.
This is the thing, right? Is this is where with this book, I'm going to get the torches and pitchforks. I know that the media is coming for me, right?
That's all right, girl. Let them come, because we need to hear the truth.
I mean,
we need to hear the truth.
The truth of this is in every single domestic violence relationship, nobody got punched in the face on the first date. That's not what happened, right? And so there's a long-term manipulation that happens within this, but the fact of the matter is that we can only be manipulated when we allow it, right? And so what we allow is what continues to happen. The media and society as a whole is so quick to vilify the abuser and to, go into this monstrous kind of narrative. And we all get on board with that. We get our torches and our pitchforks and we're like, yes,
Sure.
fuck this guy, right? Like he's awful.
Right.
Like, we do all this stuff, but we forget that the abuse itself is systemic. It comes from the feeling of worthlessness. And, that's why we choose it. We choose an outside that matches the inside. And whether we are the person being abused or the abuser, the core root cause of all of this is the same. And so until society is really willing to look at the truth that nobody wants to talk about, this cycle will continue no matter how much we vilify somebody, until we start soothing the core distressing emotions around worthlessness, abandonment, rejection. Until we start really tackling that as a society, these patterns will continue.
Oh man, that's so true. Um, wow. The fact that I'm going to go back again to that choice, right? Like I have so many people in my life that are like, oh my God, I just keep attracting these bad men. I keep attracting these circumstances. And can you talk a little bit about like kind of what happens to us? Like I've actually, since you and I've had our first conversation, the first question I ask my guests on this podcast now on a normal episode is, tell me about little girl Nicole. Like, I want to hear about her. I want to hear about the little girl guest, because what I'm finding, at least at age 43, and most of my guests are between 30 and 50 or so, are that we're all like coming into this full circle moment of being who we really were, finding our honest truth about who we were destined to be, what our infinite purpose is, our worth, our identity. And so can you talk a little bit about that and how you think we come to that conclusion as young women, like we just attract this?
I mean, I think that it's easier. I think it's easier to believe that there's something wrong with us. I think that we perpetuate the narrative that we need to be healed, right? And it's like, okay, I'm broken. There's something wrong with me. I need to be healed. I'm damaged goods, trauma, toxic, all these words that we hear over and over again create the victim narrative. And in that victim narrative, we completely surrender all of our power of the choice that we have, the free will that we inherently carry inside of our bodies to make different choices, to be different people, to choose different frequencies of that identity. And so when we're surrendering that power and we're calling ourselves the victim in so many words, of course we behave like the victim. I'm a victim of attracting bad men. Like really, like the reason why we attract anything is because of what we're feeling inside. And those feelings are 100% in our control. Like what happened to you in your life is not your fucking fault, right? Like when you're like a kid and all these things, but it's still your responsibility to be able to process the emotion, to unpack this, and to create that neutrality frequency so that you have the space to create the life that you want. 100% of the time, the thoughts in your head, the feelings you're creating, it's your choice, regardless of what anybody else is or is not doing. And being able to step into that frequency of interdependence and release the codependency is what allows us to let go of the victim narrative, to move beyond even the label of survivor, and allow ourselves to create that so that what? So that what? Why did we do any of this? What was our greater purpose? I called in these experiences for myself so that what? So that I could learn a lesson. I mean, quite honestly, the hard way, right? So that but that lesson has served me, and it has served hundreds of thousands of people, because I've perpetuated a different narrative beyond the victim and survivor narrative.
Absolutely. I definitely think, I love that you said it's not our fault, but it's our responsibility. I heard a speaker say one time, like, if you get in a wreck, right? Like, it's not your fault. Now, there are some fields of thought that say you could have left 5 minutes earlier, could have left 5 minutes later, you could have not sped, whatever. There's a million different factors that go in, but ultimately you get broadsided because someone ran a red light. That's not your fault, but you have a responsibility. You got to pick up the phone and call your insurance agent. You have to get something else to drive. You have to get that fixed or get a new car. And I really think so many of those things come. I did this like little demonstration the other day on a thing. Like we put these little labels on us as children as we're growing up, and we don't realize how easily they come off. Like it's like a stick-it note. Pull the thing off and take some responsibility. When I was in my first marriage, when my first marriage ended, after having known him since age 12, 2 kids, almost 10 years of marriage, all of this, he's gay. I felt like the only woman that had ever happened to. I truly felt like the victim of the century. Like,
Yeah.
seriously? My husband is gay? Are you I mean, Nicole, there were a million signs. There were a million, like a million trillion signs. Like, I should have known, right? But I kept telling myself that who I was. I'm this middle class, girl from lower middle class girl from Oklahoma. He's my best friend. No one else will want me. It's what I'm supposed to do. Keep taking the next step. I just had told myself this whole entire string of lies. And then when the relationship ended, I was in victim mode for years, which led to alcoholism and extreme depression and anxiety. And it wasn't until I started taking some responsibility, going, you married him. You ignored the signs. You did that. You chose to keep drinking when you knew it was making you feel worse versus when it first made you feel better. I mean, it's just a million little stories that I was telling myself, and just ignoring the responsibility that I had, because I wanted people to be on my side and to feel sorry for me and to be vindicated in some way, like someone was going to come to my door and like just give me this whole new life, right?
Yeah.
It was never going to happen.
And I mean, that's what we're taught, though. It's what we're modeled. And we get so much attention for our trauma. We get so much attention for our badges of honor. And I mean, it becomes a systemic problem because we start treating abuse or trauma as a rite of passage. And that's a very dangerous narrative to perpetuate to the next generation.
Wow. Talk a little bit more about that. That's an interesting take.
I mean, one of the things that we're really working for with this book is, beyond awareness, right, is prevention, is to create a different storyline. I mean, there's a certain movie that just came out that's very popular and very drama filled that's in the domestic violence space. And it really paints this picture of a domestic violence relationship and ending amicably, as if, everybody just walks away and it's all over and we never have to deal with it again. And it's not a problem, right? Wow. That's not how this actually goes, right? And to suggest that a domestic violence relationship just ends because people change their mind and then they just like don't behave like this ever again, I mean, is insulting to everyone who's ever been through this kind of situation. And so I think it's really important to challenge that narrative and not talk about the happy ending, because it's not a happy ending. Domestic violence never has a happy ending. It always ends with so much drama and so much shame and guilt and pain and years of unpacking, right? It doesn't end with, oh, and then we change our mind and happily ever after. And so through that narrative of happily ever after, we've romanticized this into thinking it's okay and that we should do it and that everybody goes through it and it's totally normal. And I mean, the fact of the matter is, I mean, how many women do we talk to? How many women do we talk to that have honestly never been exposed to domestic violence? I mean, like, almost zero. Like, maybe you're not in the relationship, but your best friend is. Yeah. Maybe you're not in the relationship, but you grew up with it, right? Like, you have been exposed to this in some way, shape, or form. And so we treat it like a badge of honor. We treat it like, well, you'll never guess how bad my story is, right? And so we start
in a club
together. Yeah. We start one-upping each other on this and like acting like that this is like, oh, mine was worse than yours. And oh, we're connected with this. And I mean, to a certain extent, me too, right? We get into this narrative where we're all banding together and creating this bandwagon that turns this into something that, I mean, is almost celebrated. And the thing that really gets me is the relevancy, right? Is that we become relevant through these stories. And in doing that, in creating the survivor narrative, I mean, we had to survive to get here, right? But in holding that survivor narrative for forever, we give all our power to our abuser. Our abuser is who made us relevant, right? And so it's not saying like, not only was I a victim of this, but I'm a survivor. And it's like, well, what are you a survivor of? And then you tell their story again, right?
God, you're so right.
And that legendary feeling. And like,
oh my God.
Stop this. We've got to get into a place of neutrality and understanding that this is something that happened for us, not to us. And I know that's really that's a tough pill to swallow, but we do learn lessons from these things that we couldn't have learned any other way. But what are we doing with those lessons so that we don't repeat this again and again and again?
Wow. Holy shit. That just like slapped me like a ton of bricks, because, it reminds me of kind of like this, when you think of medical diagnoses, like we've gotten on this bandwagon of breast cancer survivor. When I was diagnosed with lupus and rheumatoid arthritis and all these different autoimmune diseases, I remember so clearly going into which happened after a shitload of physical and mental trauma, by the way. Whole nother conversation we can have that Mel Robbins has been having for years. But like, I fell into this trap of getting into these support groups.
Yeah.
Online, in person, thinking I was going to find some kind of, I don't know, solution, answer, synergy, sisterhood, whatever it was. And what I found was, to be quite frank, I feel like I can be frank with Nicole on the show. It was nothing but a circle jerk of feeling sorry for yourself, is what it was.
Commiseration. It's the energy of
all it
commiseration.
was. That's right. Misery loves company. And
Yeah.
if politics has taught us nothing more, there is nothing a human being loves more than a common enemy. We love it. We want to be against it. It's like so much easier to be against someone than it is to be for forward motion. And I am here to get on your bandwagon of going, no, I don't have lupus. I don't have depression. I'm not a victim of being married to someone who came out as gay. I am this, and this. And this is who I am. And this is what my purpose is. And this is why I'm on this earth. Holy crap. That's incredible.
This is the so that what, right?
This is it, right? So that what? So that we can do what? Yeah.
Yes, like beyond the me too and the victim of all of these things, like, great, let's create some awareness. Yes, this has happened to more people than it should ever fucking happen to. Like, I get it. But now what? What's the next fucking narrative, right?
Yeah.
The so that what is where we need to live in. We need to live in the present moment, not constantly being tethered to the past. And so this storyline is designed to help you to kind of weave beyond this victim narrative and attaching to your abuser as a victim or attaching to your abuser as a survivor and becoming a self-sovereign sentient being that is choosing this so that what. I chose this domestic violence relationship so that I could become the kind of person who really understood, who really saw it from somebody else's perspective. Because if you've ever loved someone who's in a domestic violence relationship, it is terrible. Yeah. It is terrible to be watching this person make that choice over and over. And you're like, why don't you leave? And
I really, you just want to shake them.
I know. And like, I wrote this story so that you can understand why they don't leave. Because you stay in this because of a certain feeling. Nobody got punched in the face on the first date, right? You fell in love with this narrative that they created, this bubble that they built for you. And you're so desperately trying to cling to something that's not fucking real. And you want it to be so badly that you're willing to sacrifice all of these different things to get that one tiny moment of happiness. And people from the outside don't understand. The best way to advocate for someone who's in this situation is not to tear down the abuser. It is to build up the worthiness. The person, of the person in this relationship. They need building. So can you help them to build? Can they help themselves to build? When you build yourself up, you no longer tolerate this shit because you don't feel like you deserve it. And when you're in it, you feel like you deserve it.
Yeah. Oh my God. So what I'm hearing you say is, raging against domestic violence and raising awareness about domestic violence is not the answer. The answer is raising up men, and men as well are victims, women and men who are willing to stand up for themselves and know that they are sovereign, know that they are in charge of their own life, know what they do and don't deserve, know what they will and won't tolerate, and live their life more fully so that they never get in that situation in the first place.
Exactly. And that's the epidemic that we have, is that we constantly in sickness, we treat the symptoms of the sickness. We don't go into the systemic cause. We don't get into prevention. Think about all the medical grants in the fucking world, right? They're all situated towards after the fact. There's no money in prevention. Like, why is that? Well, because it's an industry, just like anything else. And domestic violence, to a certain extent, is a fucking industry. And we have these support groups and we have these movements and we have all this shit. But the fact of the matter is that there has to be more than that. I'm not saying those things don't matter. I'm not saying they didn't have to happen. Obviously we have to get out of survival. We have to get out of the victim to become the survivor, but we have to move beyond the survivor. We cannot stay in this warrior narrative. We cannot continue to allow our domestic violence situation to identify us for the rest of our lives. Just like those labels, you put that label on victim, and then you put that label on survivor, and then you take them off and you put on your so that what. So that what? What are you doing now? Who are you now? Let's celebrate that person. Let's lift that person up so that this doesn't fucking continue to the next generation of people. And I know it's really controversial to say, but what are the percentages on abusers who were abused themselves?
Right.
It's huge. It's huge.
Extraordinary. Right.
It's very rare that somebody abuses who wasn't abused. That is very rare.
but definitely. I'm curious, like there are so many levels to this, right? So we have our daughters and sons, we have young people, we have people already in a marriage, we have people trying to leave that relationship or marriage, and then we have people who are kind of stuck in that victim mentality that have already gotten out. So like where do you see the biggest opportunity um to share? Is it our young people? I mean, is it where does all of this have to start?
I mean, for the book itself, right? We're really speaking to these women who are in it, who
Mhm.
need to understand the ramifications of staying in it, right? And
Okay.
then to the women who are out of it and need to let go of this and get into there, so that what? The advocates that want to support these people. But
Yeah.
really all of that, so that what? So that these
Yeah.
people become better equipped to lead they're young, right? To lead the
Okay.
youth. Because
Yeah.
the fact is, you and I, two people on a podcast, are not going to be nearly as impactful as
Yeah.
everybody's parents, right? What if
That's
we could
right.
get everyone's parents to read these books
Yes.
and start understanding this at a different frequency and start changing the narrative and the conversation that they have with their children around
Yeah.
relationships? And that's
Yeah.
where the charity aspect of this comes in. So all the proceeds
Mhm.
from this book are going into benefit a charity called Real Talk. And Real Talk is an app that's being developed by Weave. And this
Okay.
is, it's a domestic violence kind of shelter that helps people after the fact. But the founder of this, the CEO, is this brilliant woman, right? And she was like, we have all of this funding for after the fact, and like, it's too late. We're doing the best we can with this, but what if it never happened in the first place? Where's the
Yeah.
funding for preventative? And I was like,
Yeah.
right here. Like, I will start funding the
Yes.
like, I will
Yes.
start moving this in this direction. And so this app is designed to send a text to both parent and teenage child, right?
Okay.
That suggests like a question, a conversation
Ooh.
to bring up around healthy relationships, right? And so if we're having these conversations with our children when they're 10, 11, 12 years old, then
Yes.
and we're having honest conversations with them, right?
Yeah.
From,
Right.
from the narrative of radical responsibility and choosing, and not like this is just something that happens to you, not this is a rite of passage, right? Or not
Yeah.
you just need to tolerate, you just need to get through it, it'll get better. None of
Yeah.
that. But like, really, what can we do to help our children to feel more worthy? I mean, the first thing is
Mhm.
ourselves, is really
Yeah.
being the people that we feel worthy. When we feel worthy, our children feel that frequency. They do as we do, they don't do as we say, right?
That's the damn truth.
Not the best case scenario. So this
That's
opens up
right.
the conversation for both the parent and the child, so that it's not on the responsibility of the child to be different. It's watch your parent be different. Watch your parents be
Mhm.
different. Watch them change through these conversations so that you understand the value of yourself
Yeah.
by watching somebody else who values
Absolutely.
themselves.
Absolutely. I can't help but relate your concepts back to something that's just more fresh for myself. Like I have been very blessed to never be in any kind of physical domestic violence situation, but I was at one time an addict. I was,
Mhm.
very heavy alcoholic. I loved me some pills, you know, and there's been a conversation in my household. I'll be sober 7 years on April 1st coming up. And I still have one 16-year-old at home. And the conversations that we have sound like this. Why do people become alcoholics and drug addicts? Because alcohol and drugs feel fucking amazing. That's why. It's not because, oh, they made this mistake or oh, it runs in your family. It's because it's going to feel good. You need to understand that that's going to feel good and it's going to fill a hole for you. And, I think that's what maybe a lot of people, y'all, a lot of people that end up in domestic violence situations, they've been conditioned to think that like that little, like you said, that little bit of validation that they're getting is worth all the rest. And it's just not. So I love that that your book is going to be reaching these women who are kind of been through it or going through it right now. And you're right, that is the way we turn this ship around is by leading our parents to teach their children.
Yeah, I mean, because
Yeah,
their parents didn't teach them, right?
right.
And so we
Yeah,
have to interrupt the pattern somewhere, right? Like we have
yeah.
to insert this somewhere, and knowing that it's not going to like overnight fix anything, but it is that long committed journey of improvement, right?
Mhm. So talk to me a little bit about the woman who you've been there. You've been in that home, in that apartment where she feels so trapped. She's terrified to leave. Maybe she's already got has been back and forth with the police already, whatever. Um, typically what I hear people I know say is like they're making a plan to leave. They're making this, they're stacking up this cash, or they're getting things over here in an apartment, or they're trying to do something separate. But it sounds like to me something has to happen up here first. Can you talk a little bit about that mindset shift that she's got, that tiny first step she's got to take toward that shift to get herself in the right position?
I mean, the fact of the matter is that it's dangerous to leave. And that's something that people, if you haven't been through it, you don't understand. Like, you don't get your
Yeah.
head around that fact of like, people are, just leave. Like, you
Yeah.
can't. You can't just
Mhm.
leave because they follow you. Like, I mean,
Right. Yeah.
I had a tracker on my car, I had a bug on my cell phone. I mean, I didn't find that tracker on my car for 2 years. I mean, I wouldn't think that way. So I never knew, and I couldn't
Wow.
understand how he kept
Right.
finding me. Like, how did he keep showing up where I was? Like, I mean, it took me a minute to put 2 and 2 together, right? But it's like,
Wow.
it's dangerous. It's dangerous to
Mhm.
leave. And so the
Yeah.
most important thing that you need is advocates. You need people on your side. You need
Mhm.
help. And like, thinking that you can do this by yourself. I mean, I know that a lot of people are like, I can't, there's no one that will help me, da 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 da. That's not true, right? You need to become the kind of person who feels worthy of other people's support. And that's hard to receive because the first step in receiving is asking, right? And being
That's
able to
right.
ask for help. There are strangers on the goddamn internet that will fucking help you, right?
That's
There are
right.
people
There
who've been
really
through it.
are.
Your
Mhm.
neighbors will help you. I mean, it's
That's right.
crazy how many people are willing to help, but the fact of the matter
Yeah.
is that we don't ask, and we don't ask because we don't want to be a burden on other people, and that in itself is the systemic worthlessness coming into
Yeah.
place. And
Yeah.
so it's
That's the
really
shame.
knowing, yeah, when you feel the shame, when
Yeah.
you feel the guilt, when you feel the goddamn scarlet letter coming in and you don't want anybody else to know, that in
Mhm.
itself is the danger. And that is how an abuser keeps you in check. And so it's really
Mhm.
understanding that you've got to admit it to yourself first. And I know that's
Yeah.
hard because I remember that where it was like, you kind of feel like there's plausible deniability. You gaslight yourself,
Yeah.
right? You're like, it's
Yeah.
not that
Yeah.
bad. It's not that I
Yeah.
could have
Yeah.
it worse, you know? Like, there's lots of people who do have it worse, right? So you start
Mhm.
gaslighting yourself into this belief pattern. And then, you play right into their hand with that because you become so afraid. The fear
Mm.
comes in at such a different level. And so it's really learning how to feel your feelings. It's really learning how to self soothe. It's really learning how to value yourself enough to ask for help. Don't try and
Mhm.
do this by yourself. It is
Yeah.
dangerous to do it by yourself. Ask for help, find help. Like, there is help available wherever you are in those cities and in those places. Like, it may take some work, take some
Yeah.
responsibility, right? It's like getting in the car accident,
Yep.
you got to call the
Mhm.
damn insurance company, but like,
Right?
you got to ask for help and you got to ask until you get it. I didn't get the restraining order the first time I asked. In fact, it took me 3 times. And the only reason that I did get it was because a woman at the police department who was like an advocate for people in domestic violence situations. She was my friend's, one of the guys I worked with at the bar. It was his wife, and she
Oh,
saw what it
wow.
went through, and she was like, "I will help you to get this restraining order." And I had to jump through so many hoops, and then also knowing that a restraining order is just a piece of paper. It doesn't
Yeah.
really
Right.
solve anything, but you have to
Yeah.
take steps in the right direction. You got to be able to advocate for yourself, but in order to advocate for yourself, you have to feel like you deserve it. And so that mental
Mhm.
shift of deservedness, of worthiness. You got to practice that every single day because it is a muscle that you got to build up 1% at a
Yeah.
time.
That's right. Wow. Thank you for coming on and being so open about this. I know that it's something that there's such a stigma wrapped around, and so
Yeah.
many people are afraid to even talk about it, or too ashamed, like you said, and feeling stuck in fear. But I really appreciate you open up this conversation, and I really hope that anyone who reads Shadow Called Sunshine can recognize that worthiness that they have. And I heard you say, the word attraction like comes to my mind because of your business as well. But I mean, like on the other side of that, that's where that ship begins to turn and you actually attract the partner that's going to be right for you. You attract the people in your life that are going to be supportive. But that can't happen until you see that worthiness. So, if you don't mind, I'd love to take a tangent off and talk a little bit about your business, because it's really, it's no, now that we've had this whole conversation, like it's absolutely no surprise to me that the word attraction and like what you deserve is at the forefront of even this domestic violence conversation, because it's also at the forefront of your sales and marketing and business conversation, right? Attracting your ideal clients. Can you tell us a little bit about your business and about that concept?
Well, the truth is that I developed my proprietary methodology around client attraction literally because of this domestic violence relationship. Because when I
Okay.
was in these traditional coaching programs that were teaching you marketing in the conventional ways, right? They
Yep.
always talk about pain point poking, right? And so when
Mhm.
they were teaching me this strategy, I was like, wait a minute, this sounds really fucking familiar, right? It sounded just like the things that my ex did to me, where he gets the love
Wow.
boom, get people to open up to you, tell the deepest, darkest secrets, and then take that knife and twist it in their side and make them buy from that place of pain. That's what I was taught
Mm.
in sales and marketing. And it was so like I visceral in my body where I was like, oh no, I will not
Yeah.
do this. And they said, you have to, or it won't work. And I said, I don't care. I will find another way. And so that's when I created Catalyst Marketing. And Catalyst Marketing is not marketing to the pain points. It's marketing to people who are ready to invest, who are beyond that deep, dark place of rock bottom. They've already found their own hope. So they're not codependently relying on you to get them out of this deep, dark
Save my
place.
business. I've heard so many times. I
They
can't,
need
dude.
to be self-sovereign. They need to be self-sovereign. They need to be in a place where they're
Yeah.
willing to help themselves. If you're not willing to help
Mhm.
yourself, then I can't fucking help you. And so in
Yeah.
client attraction, I redefined all of these pieces, and it turns out it works faster and better than that pain point poking because, my mentors are, they're all 8-figure guys now, right? But like it took them 7 years to make $1 million. I made $1 million in my first year, but that's because I didn't focus
Yeah.
on people in the pain point. I focus on people who are already in their self-sovereignty, already in the catalyst, ready for change, already choosing, already taking that radical responsibility. And ultimately that's, how I've made $5 million in the last 5 years and served over 5,000 clients,
Yeah.
helping them to perpetuate this belief at a different frequency. And so that's another part of my so that what, right? I went through that relationship
Yeah.
and understood narcissistic abuse at a deep level. So that what? So that I could build a better marketing system so that we stop using narcissistic abuse in the marketing and sales process.
Thank you. Yeah, I was like auditing someone's sales coaching call. And as God is my witness, this person walked someone to an American Express application, had them fill it out, and then put his fee on that new card. And I
Unreal.
was like, I can't vibe with this. I'm with you. Like I've always felt that pull, like I don't want to say too ethical for sales, but too ethical to sell that way. That's for damn sure. And I had no idea in all our conversations we've had before that that really came from, for lack of a better word, a triggering in your own consciousness about the way sales worked.
Yeah.
That's
All the
unbelievable.
better.
I love that. Can you give us an example of like a traditional sales pitch and then the way it would sound using your method?
Yeah. So if we're looking at, getting somebody to buy your program, right? Maybe you've got like a $10,000 program. Okay. So what a traditional coach is going to teach you inside of marketing is to ask these kinds of questions, right? It's like, hey, so tell me what would happen if you didn't change this? What if you stayed in this business and you weren't getting this result and you stayed here? Then that person explores all of the big scary what ifs, right? They're talking about
Mhm.
like, well, maybe I would lose my house. Maybe I would lose my wife. Like, maybe my kids wouldn't be proud of me, right? They get all of
Mm,
this information gathered up. Okay. And all that
mhm.
information is around their pain, their biggest, deepest, darkest fears. And so
Yep.
you're the whole time pretending to be supportive, right? You're like, yeah, that would
Mhm.
be really terrible. How would that feel for you? You're getting their language patterns. You're understanding their
Yeah.
circumstances, but also that underlying core distressing emotion. For some people, it's
Yeah.
rejection. For some people, it's like abandonment, right? So
Mhm.
you're identifying what that core distressing emotion is. And so through that sales process, you have their exact fucking trigger. You have the
Yeah.
knife, their breed of knife. And then when you go for the actual sale at the end, when you make that recommendation, you just stick it in their ribs and
Mm.
you say, hey, we really don't want your wife to leave you for this because,
Yeah.
you don't make this business successful. I mean, she's going to walk away, man. I mean, how many years do you actually think you have left before she's shacking up with some other dude, stealing your kids, and really just wreaking havoc on your life? How expensive is that divorce going to be? Like, I mean, a lot
Wow.
less
Yeah.
than this $10,000 program.
Yeah.
That's fucked up. That is
Yeah, that's
fucked up.
messed up. For
They do.
sure.
I mean, that's literally how they teach it, right? That's literally how they
Wow.
teach it. So in our sales process, we go the other direction, right? And so this is something to the effect of you're coming in, you want to buy this program because of course you want a successful business. That's what everybody fucking wants, right? So you
Right.
come in and
Yep.
I ask you the things And I don't avoid the fear. I'm like, what's the big scary what if for you? Right. It's like, oh, well, my husband, my wife's going to leave me, whatever the hell
Yeah.
it is. And like,
Yeah.
yeah, no, I can understand why you feel that way. But what if you did create a successful business? What would happen then? It's like, well, then I would have more time with my family because I wouldn't be at work 24/7. I wouldn't be working for this guy that's making me work till 10 o'clock at night and never giving me holidays off. Like, okay, so if you could create your own revenue, how would that feel for you? Like, I would feel like such a better dad. I would feel like such a better husband. I would be rested. It's like, well, how important is that to you in your life? Like when you are said and done and it's your last day on this earth, what's the most important thing to you? It's like, well, my children. I want my children to see me as a good dad. Okay, great. So do you feel like maybe this program would help you to become the dad you want to be?
Yeah.
Right. And most people will tell you that people will not move from desire, that they will only move from pain. And I'll tell you, $5 million later, they're fucking wrong. People move from desire all the time because even though it's the same direction, right? It's like, this is the analogy that I give my clients is that you're standing on a bridge, right? And you got a T-Rex on one side that's coming to eat you. And you got a unicorn on the other side that you really want to touch, right? You're like, I get that unicorn. Yeah. You're running across that bridge. But if you're the kind of person who's running away from a T-Rex, you are looking behind you and you are running from panic. But if you are the kind of person who's running towards that unicorn and not even paying attention to that T-Rex, you're going to get to that unicorn faster because you're not going to look behind you. You're going to move with purpose and destination. And people will respond to that when properly applied. Of course, they can't move from a place of paralytic fucking fear. Why would you want that? And here's the thing. When you break somebody down like that in the sales process and they buy your program, on the inside of your program, they have all that fear that you just created for them. And so the results are slow. They don't get the damn results because they're trying to move from fear. It doesn't work anyway.
Oh, that's so good. I love that. Wow. Okay. Well, I didn't know it was going to come quite so perfectly full circle, but you just wrapped it up with a freaking bow. That's awesome. I freaking love it. So what I'm hearing from this whole conversation is understand your worth, move toward something positive, not toward a victimhood mentality, not toward that, like I said, the circle jerk of pain, but moving toward the unicorn, toward yourself and your sovereignty and your safety as well. Yeah. In business or in your personal life.
I mean, it's all the same, right? Separation is the illusion.
That's right. Yeah. There is no such thing as balance. You just have one life, dude. Get out there and live it, right? That's it. That's it. Oh my gosh. So when does the book launch?
The book launches on June 3rd, and it'll be available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, all of the places.
June 3rd, A Shadow Called Sunshine by Nicole Heese. I'm so proud to know you and proud of this work that you're doing. It's such a beautiful place to have grown your business to a place where you can kind of go back to your other passion projects. I mean, like, how do you feel right now?
I mean, it feels incredible because I understand now, right? Like hindsight is a beautiful gift, right? Yeah. Is that I understand that this business was my so that what. I was building this business so that I could create this narrative because this is my true life's purpose. Yes, I have a very successful client attraction company. And yes, I mentor and I help and I do all of these things for business people. But ultimately, this is what I was born to do. This is what I am on this earth in this life for, is to change the systemic beliefs around worthlessness and to help people to see that there's a higher and better way.
That's incredible. That's the infinite purpose versus the finite projects that I'm constantly talking about. Like your marketing agent or your agency, that's a finite project. Even the book is a finite project, your family, but this overarching narrative and the story that you're able to come back to again and again that feeds your soul and is in service to others is absolutely so beautiful. It really is a unicorn. You're a unicorn person. And I am excited to watch you change more of us into beautiful, attractive unicorns, attracting what we really deserve in this life, because there's so much more. There's so much more that we don't realize is out there for us when we finally get it.
Yeah, there is.
Thank you. Thank you, Nicole, for being my guest. You guys can find out more about her business at nonstopnotifications.com. Follow her on Instagram, Money Making Unicorns. It is a fabulous group. Don't join if you're offended by cussing or high vibe people, because that's what the group is, man. It's total high vibe in there. I absolutely love it. I'm a member. So thank you, Nicole, for being my guest. And thank you for being a queen that leads.
The Queen's Lead podcast is recorded worldwide and produced by the kick-ass media team at the Height Digital home base in Nicaragua. Until our next episode, stay real, Queens, and go lead. Remember to tap that follow and leave your review. For freebies and more real, inspiring content you love, go to amysingleton.net and connect with Amy on her socials at @TheRealAmySingleton.
One more thing. This is the legal language, what my lawyer wrote and what I need to read to you. This podcast is presented for educational and entertainment purposes only. I am Amy Singleton, and I'm just your friend. Although I may speak to many on this show, I am not a psychotherapist, a business coach, a doctor, a CPA, a lawyer, or probably anyone who should be giving you professional advice. This podcast is not a substitute for a relationship with your doctor, coach, or any other licensed professional. Got it? Good. Now go be a queen and follow me at The Real Amy Singleton.